Hey everyone, welcome to today's show. I'm your host Phil Leonard. On today's show we have Alyssa Ritchey. Alyssa is a Pan American champion in the sport of weightlifting. She has been a CrossFitter at a very high level in being at regionals, and she's got some super insightful messages. And she's super chatty, really fun to talk to, and I basically has some really important messages, especially around health and training, and the discussion around her battle with Hashimoto's disease is really interesting. So check it out, guys. I hope you enjoy the show. As always, check out our sponsor, xendurance.eu, and use the code AgogeTV20 for a 20% discount at checkout. Hope you enjoy the show, guys. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Agoge TV. I'm your host Phil Leonard.
And I'm your host, Josh Summersgill.
Before we get into today's podcast, we with our amazing guest Alyssa Ritchey, I just want to mention our sponsor, xendurance.eu. Keep it short and sweet today. If you go to xendurance.eu and use the code AgogeTV20, you will get 20% off at the checkout. So check those guys out. Lots of awesome products. Our particular favourite is the Fuel 5 product for sustained training. So get involved with that. Alyssa, obviously, we've had a little chat before the podcast started, but can you just introduce yourself to our listeners and maybe go into a little bit about your training background and what you've done?
Yeah, sure. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be on here with you guys. So my name is Alyssa Ritchey. I am the 49 kilo weightlifter for Team USA. And currently, since all the COVID hit, our schedule has been rearranged and postponed to 2021 Olympics. And everything's unknown right now, so I don't really know how to speak of it. So that's just kind of there in the dust. When I was younger, I started doing gymnastics, probably age like 9 to age 12. And then I dabbled with volleyball for a few years, like 9th and 10th grade. And I did track and field for about 6.5 years into college, from high school into college. And then for track and field, I actually trained, used weightlifting, Olympic style weightlifting to progress or to improve my times for the 100-meter hurdles and the 300-meter hurdles.
Right, that's interesting.
And yes, I'm 4'10.5", and I'm tiny, but I ran the hurdles and I did really good.
No, I didn't mean it's interesting that you do hurdles because you're tiny. I mean, because you do weightlifting. Brilliant.
Yeah. So
Sorry, go on.
No, it's really cool. So when I was 15, I dabbled in weightlifting for, I don't know, I just did it like 2 months before track and field began our season. And it was like once a week, every Thursday. So that was fun. And it also definitely improved my times by lifting weights and adding more power and agility training to, like, on top of like training for the hurdles and sport specific training. I did extra conditioning or weightlifting. And the reason I started doing that was because the track and field coach was like, hey, you know, you have a lot of talent. You should come and do extra weightlifting. And I was like, okay, fine. I did it. I was like, my parents aren't going to be able to afford it. And they couldn't afford it. So a sponsor actually took me up at age 15 to help me like afford the gym. And it wasn't expensive. It was like, I think he paid like $50 a month. I did not know this going in. I just knew that he was going to let me train there for free. So I was very lucky and fortunate as a child to be able to get this extra help. And on top of that, be able to get a sponsor to help me be able to do this.
Definitely. I just want to take you back because to obviously you started out as a gymnast, and we all know the benefits of that now. Like after coming through, obviously CrossFit, and the benefits of that for weightlifters, we see it a lot. But I did see a video of you doing strict deficit freestanding handstand push-ups.
Oh.
And I was like, well, no wonder this girl can jerk double body weight. I was like, well, there you go. That was pretty impressive. So, just really quickly, I always like to ask, how did you find that crossover from gymnastics to weightlifting? Like, what benefits did you see straight away? Was it something that made you just go, yeah, I'm going to be good at this because I could do this?
Sure. Yeah. So growing up, I was always pretty dedicated, hardworking, and just I was a go-getter from the beginning. In gymnastics, it was well reflected of how much I pushed myself in sports. Like I would, after practice, I would go home and I would work on a skill at home. So I would pull off all the cushions on the couch, put them on the floor, and just like keep continuously falling on my head myself until the skill was accomplished. I would never wait in the line for gymnastics. Like you'll stand in two different corners and they will cross tumble, it would be calling. So one person would go, then the next girl would go, then the next girl. And I would always be on the like vertical side where the girls cross tumble, but I would be tumbling on the sidelines while the girls were cross tumbling, waiting for my turn. So I would take extra turns and have extra practice while not waiting. So that kind of was the beginning of noticing how much I was into athletics, basically how hard I worked mentally and physically. So as CrossFit came on, when I first started CrossFitting, I had walked into the gym and already done these ring handstand push-ups. Like I was just like, oh, can I show you a ring handstand push-up? Because I can do that. And the coach was like, sure, go for it. And this is like the first week I walked in the door, and he's like, is this girl serious right now? So I busted out like 7 ring handstand push-ups, like just strict, like no, we're not talking like using the straps to pull yourself up. Like we're just talking like strict ring handstand push-ups. So he was like, who is this freak? Like, he didn't really say that, but so, and I just always knew I was strong for my size. I was like, I said I dabbled in weightlifting when I was younger. I had set the state records as a youth lifter. I had actually I was invited to nationals because I qualified, but unfortunately my family couldn't afford it. For me to travel and go. I had already done so much gymnastics when I was younger. They took a lot of their income towards that. And they were just like, the traveling for gymnastics was just so expensive that weightlifting just wasn't going to be something they were going to invest in for me, which is okay. I wasn't really into it as much as I was into gymnastics. So then basically what happened with CrossFit transition to CrossFit, I just wanted a different, from track and field in college, I quit because I was just like, I'm done. I don't want to spend all day on a sport anymore. I just want to be in college. So I stopped. And then I found CrossFit probably 3 years later because I was hungry and for competition. I was like really craving like that competitive mindset, the competitive like agenda, like very structured and very day by day. I have an agenda with training and with mindset and stuff. And I wanted to push again. So when I was waitressing in college, somebody was like, are you a CrossFitter? And I just kept getting asked this, like at college, in the gym.
Did you have your nanos on at work? Is that what it was?
No, so I didn't even know CrossFit. Like I had no idea what it was. I was just doing CrossFit training. I was doing like handstand walks, strict handstand push-ups. I was doing dips. I was the only girl at the University of Toledo, which is I want to say it's a D2, like or AA schools. Like that. So a decent sized college, but I was the only girl that would walk with use them, and no other girl would use these weights. And so all the guys were like, why is she, wow. And so I'd be squatting like, not that much, but the guys thought it was a lot. I'd be benching, like my bench in college was like 185 for 1 rep, 185 pounds. I don't know what that is kilos. Is that like 90?
It's about 85 kilograms.
Yeah,
85 kilos.
It's enough is what it is.
It's a lot because I was waiting at the, yeah. I was weighing like 105 at the time as well, because I was really small in college, very, very small. So that's kind of how I got introduced to CrossFit. I just kept like hearing about it. People kept asking me if I was a CrossFitter. So I looked into it, and then I went to the gym, showed the coach my stuff that I had. I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, whatever, here's what I can do. And he's like blown away. Like, oh my God, this girl's a games athlete.
Like, I was just going to say, could you imagine somebody walking into the, like, I always say, whenever somebody comes into the gym and just says, oh, I did gymnastics as a kid, I'm like, welcome to welcome to the gym. This is good.
Yes.
First week's going to be really easy for you.
You just have a lot of body awareness when you're a gymnast. You know, you just have, you know, your body, like your body is your sport. So it's not like you have, I guess it's not like you're working with bell, or I don't know how to say this. You just have a lot of body awareness when you're a gymnast. You know how to control your body. You know how to work with your body. You know how much it can take. And it's just a grueling, gymnastics is a hard sport. It's probably one of the toughest.
We actually talked about a similar thing with Freya Morrow, who's a UK weightlifter.
Sure.
And she's in the 53 kilogram class. She's
55 probably.
Yeah, 55, sorry. And she's she's an ex-gymnast as well. And when she was like, they were talking about doing flips, and I'm like, when I do a flip, I do not know where my body is. Like, it's close my eyes and hope for the best.
Oh God.
like, please land on my feet. You know what I mean? Like, my girlfriend being an ex-gymnast doesn't understand that in the slightest, and like had no concept that I hadn't done a handstand until I was in my mid-20s. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I played rugby. What did I need to go on my hands for? Do you know what I mean? So it's always it's always super interesting when you hear just people who come from a gymnastics background, just like they have a slightly different concept of movement than us. Let's call us regular people.
Right. So, I definitely think when you're younger, you should put your, I mean, if your child wants to do this sport, I don't think you should ever force anything on your kids, because at the end of the day, if they don't like doing it, they're not going to put their heart and soul into it, like I did when I was a kid. But I think like when people grow up and they're my age, if they did have that gymnastics background, I feel like they're going to be a lot more talented, gifted, so to say, with banana marks, than a kid that like doesn't have like any sort of sport background, or even like a gymnastics. Like, I guess you could put them in something like, I don't know, what's another good sport? Like wrestling probably is pretty good, because wrestling involves like intense, I don't know, just in very, very intense sport. I don't know. So.
I think, like you say, wrestling, you see a lot of CrossFitters from wrestling backgrounds because they've got that aerobic conditioning and the body awareness. It's just, it seems to match up really well, doesn't it?
Sure.
And I do want to ask you as well, obviously, you went from showing up at your local gym and blowing the coach's mind to 4 times regional competitor.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like? How was it a case of, I don't want to say was it easy to get to regionals, because I know that's not a thing, but because you obviously had the prerequisites, how did you find that transition to competing in the sport at that level?
Sure, yeah. So when I first got into the sport, I believe it was 2012 in September, at the end of September, when I came into the CrossFit gym, and one girl had dropped out of competition that they were there's a local competition going on, and there was 4 people like per team. One of the girls had dropped out, so they were like, Alyssa, why don't you try, to go with us? And at that competition, we had done really good. We had gotten second, and it was like, I had no idea what was going on. I just was like, whatever they told me to do, I did, and that's it. But then everybody's like, oh my gosh, this girl on your team is going to be a regional athlete, if not a CrossFit Games athlete. And I had no idea what that meant. And when they finally told me like what the CrossFit Open was and how it kind of worked, I kind of got it. I understood what they were talking about. I was like, okay, it's a big competition that a bunch of good people compete in. All right. So I'm pretty like confident about myself, as you can kind of tell. I don't really, that's just kind of like how that's just my mindset, I guess. And I think that's why I succeed so well in sports, because I'm very confident with who I am and with my athletic abilities. When I first did my first CrossFit Open, I ended up getting second and only a point behind first place in the Central East region. And people were like, is this girl? And I was like, the coach made me do the workouts twice to 3 times, like every week. I had no idea. I was just like, sure, I'll do it again, as I'm like dying, like, like trying to push through the workout. Yeah, it was pretty wow. And then so I'm getting ready for regionals now. I get second place in the Open, and I qualified for my first regionals in 2013. And a couple of the boys said that I think I was just like, yeah, I'm so good. This is so much fun. We definitely make like the games. I'll probably podium. It'll be awesome. And I got to practice one day or training, and the boys looked at me and they're like, Alyssa, I just want to let you know that these girls are huge. Like, they're good. They're really muscular and really good at what they do. So you better be ready. And I was like, okay. Yeah. So I get to regionals and I was like, holy mammoths. I was like, these women are huge. Like, never seen it. It was like foreign to me. It was like seeing I don't know, like something you've never, like going to the moon for the first time and seeing the stars that close, or seeing craters or stuff. I was just like, these women exist in this world. Like, they were beautiful. They were ripped out of their minds. They were jacked. They were super strong. And then there's me that has like a little bit of muscle, a little bit of chub on the belly. And then just like in my TJ Maxx clothes from like, who knows how long I had them. Everyone's like decked out in their Reebok, has their nanos, and I'm like, just like, no idea what's going on.
I always liken it to the scene out of, you remember, have you ever seen Space Jam? The Michael Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like the first time I went out onto a competition floor where everyone was bigger than me, I was just like, it was like walking out and against the Monstars. I was just like, why is everybody so big and huge? Like,
perfect example. So perfect. Yes. And it didn't go so well. One of the girls' barbells had rolled like into my lane and had messed my judges counting up, because they were so they were trying to get the barbell. It was Jackie 1,000-meter row, 50 thrusters, and like 30 chest to bar pull-ups, I think. Yeah. But their barbell was rolling in my lane, so she was freaking out about this barbell, and she was not counting my reps. So I'm like, but ended up doing pretty well in it, but whatever. Anyways, so Rory McCurran, the guy that like announces cross stuff.
Yeah.
He comes up to me in my second event and he's like, "Are you Alyssa Ritchey?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Hi." No idea who this guy is. He's like, "I just want to let you know that I thought you cheated to get here." What? Okay. I was like, and it's no one heard of you, and all of a sudden you get second place, you qualify for regionals. And he's like, after I saw you do Jackie, he's like, "Girl, you're my new favorite, because you're so tiny and you're so good." And I was like, I laughed. I was like, "Thanks." You just don't know these people, so it's such an unfamiliar ground. And then these people like come up to you and they're like, "Wow."
I suppose it's quite cool though as well, because when you get to like a certain level, in I say CrossFit's a fine example, you get to a certain level and everybody looks the same. Like there's no weight categories in CrossFit, is there?
No.
Do you know what I mean? So like you start to see like a certain body type which works at elite level CrossFit, don't you? So I suppose for yourself, being surrounded by all these women that like look different, and then someone like Rory McKernan saying, "You're my favorite person," it's going to be quite a nice feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super big compliment. I actually had Savon too, the camera guy that like, I'm not sure if you guys know who he is.
Yeah,
he does a lot of filming at CrossFit and the documents and stuff. He actually filmed Rich Froning saying like, I don't know, something, he talked about it, like him coming back as like a individual and stuff. And Rich Froning was like, never, or if you're not going to retire. I don't know. It was, but he came up to me and like, it was my, it was the year I was qualified games. He came up and was like, so are you going to be able to lift this weight above your head? Because you are the smallest girl, and for pound, you would be the smallest athlete to ever make the CrossFit Games if you make it. Because I was in 3rd place for the wind, and I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, cool. And I threw the weight up over my head in the back without like warming up, because we literally had from the last event, from the second to last event to the last event, we had 30 minutes to recover and warm up. And it was after this like super long chipper. So all of us athletes were like exhausted. So none of us warmed up. We just kind of went out there and just did the last event. We just were like, we're nothing in us.
As you do.
Just, I'm warm, I'm good. I'm as warm as I'm going to get.
We were pretty dead, but yeah, so it's kind of cool to be underestimated and then prove people like wrong, because it's like, it's capable of anything you want. And if you're able to put that positive and powerful mindset instead of letting people's opinions and negativity and disbelief conquer your mindset, instead you got to switch it around and know that you can do anything. And I think that's just how I've been my whole life. So when people don't believe in me, it's like, okay, that's fine. You don't have to believe in me, but I 100% believe in myself. Yeah. So don't bother me.
Yeah. You don't believe in me, but I'm going to show you different.
So what's interesting is
exactly.
Me and Josh are in the middle of a book. No, not that we're reading the same book at the same time. Well, we are reading the same book, but obviously we're not sharing it.
We're reading. How good we are! Like, we're that big of friends.
we read the same book. I read, and there was a thing in it basically about that, and saying that certain athletes draw so much energy from. They call it in like an internal like notice board, basically, where they can say, well, this. They can draw on somebody saying, oh, well, you're too short for this sport, or you're too big for this sport, or whatever, do you know what I mean? And they draw on those things when it gets tough, and it just basically makes them a better athlete, because and just thriving on proving people wrong. And I think like you're probably examples that you gave there, a case in point of that, where you can sort of go, right, okay, this workout's getting pretty tough, or I'm not sure if I can make this lift, it's heavy, well, I'm going to go and do it because I'm going to prove all these people wrong.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
And the energy in CrossFit is just so different from weightlifting. Like the energy when you're there from the audience, from the just people, is incredible. Like I would 100% go, I'd rather have a CrossFit audience at a weightlifting competition any day, because the hype is real. I like when you're at an international competition at weightlifting, like there's maybe like 6 or 7 people in the audience, and it's like, and you're like, cool. It's so bad.
And they've all got the tops on and everything, and it's just not the same.
It's not the same. And it's funny because the international ones, where you got to have your most hype, because those are like your Olympic qualifying events, and those are your like times to like really prove yourself a part of Team USA, so you can qualify for your next team. So yeah, the community is everything in any sport. That's like a huge deal for me, especially. I'm not going to stay at a gym if the community is sour. I'm going to stay at a gym if the community is supportive and fun and just cool people.
I did want to ask you about the contrast between obviously competing in CrossFit events and competing at like the Pan Ams, for example, which was last year. It's been a really long year. I keep thinking I'm like
I know
it's 2042 or something. I don't know, but yeah, like,
I didn't be dead then. Ooh, close. I'm still, kidding.
I'm still counting on living forever. It's all good. But yeah, so obviously you medaled. You got a gold medal at the Pan Ams. Right in
Oh
saying?
yeah, I did.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I did?
Oh,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
I remember that.
Yeah, I did. Shoot. Oh man.
That's how good you are, that you forget when you get a gold medal.
Like the medals to me are like something, it's really cool. Don't get me wrong, it's really cool to place and have the medals. But for me, at the end of the day, it's really how I got there. I think sometimes, this is going to blow people's minds. I think sometimes training is more fun than competing. Like, I love to push my body to the max in a training session. I love to feel so, like, I love the grit. I love pushing through. Like there was a week before Worlds 2019 where I was so exhausted that I like literally was in tears. I mean, that's how far I pushed my body. Like I was crying because I was like, I can't do this. I'm so tired. Like I'm exhausted. And like there's another story behind that, which you guys are going to ask me later. But like, anyways, but I really do just love the training, the brutal aspect of the entire thing. I don't have to have motivation to go to the gym. Like, or like, I need motivation I watched your video and I got motivation. So I went outside and worked out. Like I've never, ever had to do that. I like, love deep down in my heart. I just love the gym. Like it's just a part of who I am. That's it.
We talk about this all
But
the
yeah,
time.
so sorry, continue. Your
Yeah, no, I was just going to comment on that and say, like, yeah, we talk about this all the time, where it's like we never have to think about the motivation to go to the gym. We just have, even when you don't want to go, you have the discipline to show up and do it. You just like, yeah, this is what I do today. Like, I've got work to do, so off I go.
exactly.
And like I say, it's the process as you highlighted, kind of thing. So when you sorry, I think we're breaking up a little bit, but when you competed, and obviously, like you say, what is the main differences? Like obviously, like the crowds, and it's very quiet. But what do you find when you like? How do you get yourself hyped up for a big lift when you? Because like for me, I love to have Josh shouting, going, "Come on, bro, get it," or whatever, and like, but like. How does the thought process change as opposed to going out on, say, a CrossFit floor to a weightlifting stage or platform?
So like a CrossFit arena compared to the weightlifting stage it's completely different. So the game in the back room for weightlifting is I lift as the athlete and my coach counts the numbers and loads my bar. I literally do nothing but lift. I don't think. I just follow what my coach has for me to do and I do it. Like that's it. I don't get all weird when I see the girls lift and make a lift. That almost gets me more amped up to go out there and crush her. So I don't get like all weird. I'm like, she made it. I mean, unless like she's like a Chinese, they're just insanely strong. Kind of. Just kidding. So if you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, we know. It's cool.
Yeah. So girls are just unreal to touch. So you just can't like really, you can't think of yourself in the same category as like those kind of girls. So when there's a girl that's actually competing like naturally, it's really cool to see the battle in the back room while you're back there. It's really, really intense. And especially when girls are stealing your clocks in the back room for weightlifting, when girls have to, let's see. So when they're stealing your clocks and then all of a sudden you think you have like a 2-minute rest and now you only have like a 30-second rest, you're screwed because now you have to like kind of do it in a CrossFit sense. You have to be ready to go pull a max 99% of your 1 rep max, like within 30 seconds. And as a weightlifter, we don't really train that type of system. We train more of like I mean, I guess we kind of do in a sense. I'll be ready for it since I was a CrossFitter, but not a lot of weightlifters train that system. They basically, like, I would call it like an anaerobic system where like you get like a 30-second rest and then you go out there and you just hit it again. I mean, anaerobic, I'm sorry, aerobic. I probably don't even know in a tangent, but so anyways, so with the weightlifting back room, it's more, I only because you're alone and it's just you against like you out on that stage, whereas you have people to like try to push past. Like the Rogue Invitational right now is going on and they're all alone in their gyms. That is how we compete every single time as a weightlifter. And that's how I train. I train alone. I don't have like the ability to just go around and find like international level women to train with, because number one, it's few and far between. You find a good weightlifter that's like you. There's a lot more CrossFitters. So when you're out on that weightlifting stage, you're out there alone and you have to figure out how to get yourself excited for that lift and how to get your adrenaline going. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of comes natural because you're at competition. So your adrenaline's already out. And my routine, like as a weightlifter, was always like, I walked to the end of the stage. I would talk to myself and tell myself, like, you've done this lift in training numerous times. You've done this lift for complexes and you've done this lift like with your eyes closed. Like this lift is going to be easy. And when it gets hard, keep pulling and just pull. Because if you keep pulling, you just get under the bar, you'll be fine. Just like stand it up. And then once, you know, once you kind of like believe yourself that you're going to be able to do it, after that, it's just like, you just got to go do it. But you can't rush and you can't freak out when you get to the bar, because that's when you start doing weird things. So technique is a huge thing for weightlifting and routine. It's almost how to kind of approach the bar the exact same way every time and also have flawless technique. In CrossFit, it's a little different because arm bends, you know, all that stuff with weightlifting isn't a huge, it isn't an issue at all. So out there you can have sloppy technique and still pull a good time out of your butt. But in weightlifting, it's like a little technical flaw could be the end of your lift.
Definitely,
for sure. And I think again, like
I know that. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, sorry, I was just going to say, I think like exactly what you said earlier about it's the process. You've gained confidence when you get on the competition floor because you know you've done the work, which I think is a really cool message. I'm also just getting really conscious of the time and that we don't want to keep you all day. But
no, you're fine. You can. I'm okay. I'm not in a rush to go anywhere.
Alyssa's got exactly 47 minutes.
Yeah,
47 minutes, and I have to go. Sorry, guys. Time's up. No, you're fine. You can keep going. I mean, that's
excellent.
I have nowhere to be. So
excellent. We're all stuck at home anyway, right?
Yeah. The only thing, my boyfriend has an exam at 11, so in an hour, so we have to be off before 11.
We'll be off.
Which I don't think I could
we'll
talk
be done
that
before
long.
Then, don't worry.
Well, there's a clean and jerk event at Rogue that we've all got to watch anyway, right? So like,
yeah, it's like in 8 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, that kind of stuff. I'm like, dang, I'm like half their size, and I'm like, I'm doing the same weight, but then again, they're doing like a million events before it to crush their bodies. Respect.
Yeah, no, it's cool. So I get, like you mentioned it earlier, obviously about being so tired during training that you were like in tears, and I've seen posts about the fact that you were diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease. I'll let you explain a bit more about that because you'll explain it way better than I will. So
sure.
Basically, what is it? How does it affect you? And what's the plan going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great question because I think a lot of people aren't familiar with it. And I think a lot of people are confused that I did it to myself and I really didn't. I for the past like 6 years, I've noticed like a trend. I've noticed that I've been exhausted after training, and this started in CrossFit too. It was probably more prevalent my last year of CrossFitting. I was like, I am exhausted all the time. Like, we were in Colorado. There would literally be obese people passing me on the trails. And I was this fit, young CrossFitter. And I'm like, take your fitness outside. Like, what? What? I'm like not even able to do a mile without being exhausted. And so we didn't really think anything of it. We just thought I was overtraining, and that's pretty much it. And then we got to the end of my CrossFit year, and I did a little bit of grid, National Pro Grid League. And I was like, you know what? I'm really tired. I'm really exhausted. So my boyfriend sat me down and he's like, listen, we need to make a decision here. You're coming home with a terrible attitude. You're angry at your training. You're frustrated at me all the time. You're constantly like snapping because you're so exhausted. He's like, all you do is like train, sleep, and want to like do nothing. And I was like, I know. I was like, I'll make a decision. I was like kind of upset because I was just like, I really didn't want to quit CrossFit, but at the same time, it was like destroying me. So I thought, at first I didn't have my nutrition. I was like, which I wasn't enough. I didn't really have nutrition under control back when I was a CrossFitter. I just kind of eat whatever I wanted. I wasn't eating protein. I was probably eating half my body weight in protein as a CrossFitter. We all know that's not even close to enough. Can't like keep the mass on if you can't, or the muscle mass on if you can't eat the right amount of protein. So I transitioned into weightlifting, and I was kind of nervous because I really didn't want to start another sport because I know my mindset. I'm very dedicated and I'm all in kind of girl. So I'll put 100% into anything I do. And as weightlifting went on, it was literally the exact time I started falling out with CrossFit is when weightlifting started falling out too. So 3.5 years into CrossFit, that's when all this went down where I quit. And then 3.5 years into weightlifting, the same attitude, same mindset happened. And I was like, what is going on? I was like, I'm having the exact same feelings I had in CrossFit. Like, I just want to quit. I can't anymore. I'm exhausted. Like that after when I cried at in Worlds training, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was like, this is too much. I am exhausted. I'm dead. Like, I wouldn't change out of my pajamas all day. Like, all day. I would literally be in my pajamas till like 11. Then I'd go out and train, and then I would come back in and I would literally change back in my pajamas. I couldn't shower. I barely could make dinners for me and my boyfriend. I hated doing any chores because I was just so tired. I was like, all my energy had to go to my training. So I had a random blood draw. Ben, he said after Peru, which was after 2019 Worlds, he said, why don't we get our blood tested? And I'm like, okay, sure. So I had this random blood draw after the American Open Finals in 2019 December. And I was like, came back and found out that my thyroid stimulating hormone was 8.74, I believe it was. And that's high because a normal TSH level is, they say it's 0.5 to 5 range, but it really is 1 to 2.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So it's like mine was very elevated. And Ben, my boyfriend, was like, this is really concerning. He's like, this is really concerning. And I was like, why? I was like, let's just keep going. And we come to find out, I talked to like my dietitian. I had talked to 4 doctors, and I had a doctor's appointment scheduled. So I went to the doctor's appointment, and the doctor right away was like, you have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And I was like, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, what is that? He's like, it's an autoimmune disease that attacks the thyroid. It thinks it's a foreign object in your body. So what happens is these antibodies attack it. So it would be like having, it's like attacking an organ that you need. Like the thyroid is super in control of like a ton of things, like your metabolism, which is a huge part of like why I wasn't able to cut weight easy, why my weight cuts were terrible, why I didn't sweat ever. and still have a lot of trouble sweating. Like I will look like this after a training session and people will be like, did you even train? And I'm like, I promise I did. There's a lot of other things like your hair starts thinning and falling out more. Your skin gets really dry and starts like, you just start getting like wrinkles and like, it's like, there's more things to it. You're exhausted all the time. You can't go to the bathroom, like you're constipated. There's just so many symptoms that it's hard to pinpoint because there's a lot of symptoms for a lot of things that go on in your body. So we just didn't really think of anything. So I went out and like, before I knew that I had this like thyroid issue, I went out and bought like $300 worth of like face creams and stuff like that, just to like get my face like feeling better because it was so dry all the time. And I was starting to get like self-conscious, like, oh my God, I look terrible. Like what's wrong? It explained why I was sweating. Also, I have bilateral carpal tunnel syndrome, which is a symptom of Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Just all this stuff. Like never knew up. For 6 years I'm suffering with this. And finally, after a random blood draw, because my boyfriend's like, we should just get our blood tested, I found out that I had this. And then after the doctor's visit, he was like, you should start taking this pill. It's levothyroxine. It's basically a synthetic hormone that replaces, I think it's T4 in your body. So your body produces T3 and T4, and that's like, I can't really tell you a lot because I'm not like a scientist. I'm not like a physiology teacher, so I can't really tell you everything, but I know T3 and T4 are super important, and those are like the hormones that go through your body to like regulate everything. Okay. I was overproducing TSH, but I wasn't able to produce T3, T4. Okay. Right. So I got this medicine. I went in the next day, or I went in that morning to train. And it was a Saturday. So it was the end of my training session week. My snatches were so good. And I was so awake. I was like, what is wrong? I don't need a coffee. I can just train. I'm not exhausted. My snatches feel good. How is this happening right now? And I was just like, no way, man. I was like, it's a placebo. Like the pill didn't kick in that fast. I was like, maybe it's just my mind thinking like something's better. So a week goes by and the training is just, it's great. And then I like didn't want coffee. Like one morning I didn't have coffee and I was fine. I was awake. I was like super alert and aware. And everyone was like, they could just tell that something was different because I had been cranky a lot. Like, I mean, you wouldn't know. Like, they were like, you were the same Alyssa you are now. You're just like this bubbly. And I was like, well, Ben didn't think that. I was like very snappy. I wasn't snapping at him anymore. I was showering and like getting ready like a normal human being would. My skin was oily again. Like it started getting its oils back. I started sweating more, just everything. I could tell my hair now has gotten thicker. It's growing back because my hair always as a little girl has been like pretty thick and now it's like thicker. So, but the biggest thing that I could snatch for the first time. Like I was able to like figure it out kind of. I think what was happening is I was so tired that I was just pushing through every day in training, regardless of how I felt, because I'm just not the kind of person that just like lets stuff affect me. Yeah. So it was crazy because also like with my weight cuts, I wasn't able to like cut weight easy. And that was a lot of the reason is because Hashimoto's thyroiditis doesn't want that. And so when it doesn't let you sweat, you can't really sweat off the weight. So it's just a lot of trouble. And then finding out that I was able to push through training without being exhausted. I'm like a whole new person, you guys. Like I'm kind of doing like dabbling with CrossFit now and dabbling with weightlifting at the same time. I'm able to walk out of a 2.5 hour, 3 hour training session and be fine and actually have energy for the whole day.
I think it's crazy as well because in both CrossFit and weightlifting, we've got this attitude of I'm uncomfortable, but I have to push through this regardless, and I have to get my training done, and that becomes non-negotiable. Whereas when you did exactly the same thing, and it took your boyfriend to go, right, let's get our bloods taken. Do you know what I mean? And this obviously what's happened like has come to light and stuff, and obviously you've learned from it, and now obviously got a lot better from it. But I think it's interesting to think about, well, yes, you should push through these things, but sometimes there's the opposite end of the scale where you're like, I should really look into this.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not just being a wimp and like, 3 sets of squats in thinking, oh my God, I can't do this. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes there's a bit more to it, isn't there? As obviously you found out.
Yeah, I think that we have to pay attention to our bodies more. I actually had a blood draw before Pan Am's and no one ever read the results to me. So and I did get the results back from that one and it was elevated then. So we could have figured this out a year ago, which makes me very angry because my world's performance would have been probably unreal. We would have went for the numbers we were going to go. We were going to go for 112, 110, 112 in the clean and jerk, and we were going to go for 85 kilo in the snatch. And if I would have pulled that total out, I would have still been the top 49 in the country. Granted, if I made the total, it's the best training cycle of my life ever. So yeah, I think we should pay attention to our bodies more. I think we should listen to our bodies more. If something's going on and something's not right, if you're tired all the time, or if you're just like feeling like some ache, go visit a doctor, some professional that knows what they're doing, or heck, get a blood test like I did.
Yeah.
A blood test to figure out like just a yearly one. I know they're expensive, but they're worth blood tests.
Definitely.
I literally was pretty darn, nobody would have known it, but like I was very sad. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the Alyssa that I'm gonna have to live with the rest of my life. Like she's just like, I felt like just like drained and exhausted. I was like, this is her. This is the new her. Yeah. And then when the pill kicked, I was like, this is not the new Alyssa. This is her. Hello.
I mean, obviously, so you perform at the tip of the spear for the sport as well. Like, do you ever imagine if you'd have caught it 2 years earlier, 3 years earlier? Like, I know you can't really look back and be disappointed because you can't change anything, but there must be a little part of you that says, wow, where would I be otherwise? You know what I mean? Like, do you ever think that, or is it just like, nope, can't control it, move on?
Part of me is both. A part of me is like, it's mostly like, nope, can't control it, just move on. Like, it is what it is. And then there's a part of me that's like, I wish I would have found it out, because I don't think I would have quit CrossFit. I would have continued CrossFit and I would be a different journey. Yeah. But then I wouldn't have been able to be that awesome weightlifter that joined the sport years ago and dominated the sport as a newbie. Yeah. Like, I just think you're meant to be where you're meant to be. And I think what happens in our life is meant to happen. So it's like, I don't want to change my life because everything in my life has happened for a purpose. And I believe in God. So it's like, I believe that he knows where I'm going. So he lets me go there, but he also wants me to be the one to figure it out along the way as well.
Great answer.
Yeah, great answer, great attitude as well. So obviously, one more quick question, and we'll move on to some like more fun questions that are just like wrap up, sort of like quick fire questions. Just wanted to ask as well. So you work with Juggernaut, which is somebody I've been following for a long, long time. What's it like to work with those? They're obviously I always feel like the most intelligent people in the room at best of times. So getting coached from those guys must be pretty awesome.
It's amazing. So I met Max. This is kind of funny. I always have stories for everything. I'm a storyteller, if you can't tell.
I love it.
I talk a lot too. That's probably why people like having me on the podcast.
It's a good thing, don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay, go. Whew. I'm always nervous. I'm like, oh my God, am I talking too much? Okay. So back in 2014, when I almost made the CrossFit Games, I had wanted to do nationals as well. So as soon as I was done with regionals, I started training for like snatch, clean, and jerk. But I was doing my like own programming, so I was way overtraining. I ended up hurting my shoulder really, really bad. This day, it does bother me still on certain things like ring dips and push-ups and things like that, but not even on the lifts. So that's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm going to do American Open finals back in 2014. And that's when Chad picked me up. He picked me up a month before I went to regionals, CrossFit regionals. And he basically was like, I love your personality. I love who you are. I love your dedication, and you're a good athlete. So we're going to work with you. We'd love to work with you. And I was like, sure, that'd be great. And then Max and Chad were not, they were friends, but they were not like, you know, what they are now, like business partners. So I went to 2014 American Open, and Chad was like, are you ready, little one? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm ready. He's like, what are your numbers? And I was like, 165 pounds. And he's like, no, little one, kilos. We're not in CrossFit. We're in weightlifting. I was like, okay. And then he's like, who's your coach? And I was like, I don't have a coach. And he's like, you don't have a coach with you? Nobody's going to help you count or anything? I was like, what's counting? He's like, Alyssa, oh my gosh. He's like, come meet my friend. And so I met Max and Joe Ada, and they coached me in the back after not doing anything for 3 months. No like weightlifting at all, just squatting. I PR'd my clean and jerk, and I got second in, I think I got third in the total, and then second in the snatch, and fourth in the clean and jerk. And Max was just like, this girl's good. Like, she's good. So that's how I met Max. So a year later, 2 years later, when I quit CrossFit, I was like, oh yeah, Max. I was like, I should talk to him, because I wanted to get really strong. And that was my goal. I was going to take a year off CrossFit and get really strong and just focus on like just doing things that were good for my mental health and physical health, and just stay strong. So Max and me started working together, and I told him, I was like, if I don't love weightlifting after the first meet, I don't really want to do it anymore. And I love Max. I have worked with Max now for 3.5 years, and with Chad for like since 2014, so 6 years. And I couldn't tell you a better sponsor. Yeah. Chad has always stuck by my side regardless of anything. He's never ever asked me for anything until now. Now he does like the posting and stuff. We have to like do a certain amount. Yeah. It's been a really easy journey with him. He has been the best sponsor I could ever ask for. Mostly because he's just a good person. He's awesome. Just a genuinely good person, like a great guy. Like I couldn't talk more highly about Chad. It's just he's great with his business. He works very hard from morning till night. He does a lot of it himself in the beginning. Now he has a little bit more help, but not much. He'll always stick by your side, just no matter what. He's always that genuine friend. And Max is the same way. Like, Max is a coach that I've never experienced before, because growing up, I had a really bad coach when I was little. And she was very, very my gymnastics coach. And then, so to work with Max and to get to this level of almost becoming an Olympian is like mind blowing, because he let me do everything that I needed to do, but he still pushed me, and he believed in me. Like, he always knew what I love. So he never ever didn't let me see that. Like he made sure that I saw what I was capable of, as well as he knows what I'm capable of. Max is just a good, I mean, I think I texted him every day for the past 3.5 years. Every day, you guys. Like,
Awesome.
I would get annoyed. But Max was just, he was
Life
just
of a
always
coach,
there
I'm
and
afraid.
always.
Yeah,
Yes,
How it
yes.
works.
Yeah, we get that for sure.
Yeah. But just a genuine, both of them, great guys. Juggernaut's very smart. They're the best out there, like hands down. They're the best coaches. They're worth exactly what they charge. They probably could charge more, and they're worth way more. But I mean, if you want a good seminar, if you want good people and smart and very knowledgeable about what they're doing, it's Chad and Max. Like,
Excellent.
Max has taught me a lot, mentally, physically, like how hard I can push as an athlete.
Yeah,
sure. Excellent. So, obviously, we have like 3 quick questions that are just sort of quick fire questions to sort of wrap
these.
up.
I do these on my podcast too. Those are fun. Okay.
We've got a couple of different styles of them, and we've got this and that, and then we've got like I say, 3 quick fire questions. So one of them is just dead simple, book or film recommendation.
Book or film recommendation? Book or film? Can I do both?
You can do both, yeah.
Okay. Man, I'm bad. Okay, book. I'm currently reading The Alchemist, and I really like it. It's like a really good story. It's, but like with like good real life lessons. Really like that one. I also like anything Gillian Flynn.
I know the name.
Right.
And yeah, you know who it is?
Yeah, I think someone's mentioned that before.
Yeah, I like Gillian Flynn. She's really good. And Brene Brown is really good too. Anyways, sorry, film. Recently just watched Just Mercy with everything going on with George Floyd. It has the guy that plays Creed.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's really good. It's very sad. You will cry a lot, but
is it bad? I can only remember the guy from
I would
Creed
say
as
that
the
one.
guy out of Black Panther.
Yeah, that's
he's the bad guy in Black Panther.
Yeah.
Oh, is he? Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see Black Panther. I wasn't interested in seeing it. Just didn't look like my type of like movie. I don't like.
I'll just watch anything Marvel.
Yeah.
I'm a Marvel geek.
Oh, see, that's why I have never seen anything.
Wow.
Well, Spider-Man. That's it. Just Spider-Man. Sorry.
You need to.
Not
Spider-Man's the shit one.
Disney Plus.
Okay, fine. I'll watch it.
Disney
I heard it
Plus
was really
battle
good
through.
though.
Yeah, brilliant.
Oh, man.
So next one is what's your pet hate in the gym? What's, like we always say, what's the number one thing that in the gym like just really winds you up? Like for example, I always use the example someone chalking up the hands to do press ups. I'm like, why are you doing that? Like
Wait, what was yours?
Chalking up your hands to do press ups.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that.
So what's
really
my
gets
pet
on your
peeve?
nerves.
When people get mad at me because I'm not talking and I'm training, because I think people forget that it's like my job. Like, or somebody comes over and just like wants like all this advice and keeps sucking energy out of me while I'm training, and I'm like, guys, like, but that's Oh, and one more. This is probably my really bad one, is when coaches don't stop athletes when they're doing the movement terribly wrong and in danger of breaking their back or they're unsafe. That is huge pet peeve.
Yeah.
Mine personally is when I want to do handstand push-ups from the rings and the coach makes me do them on the floor.
It's totally different.
Sacrilege.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, you are the coach.
I'm joking.
Oh.
Excellent. And this is my favourite one, because when somebody's really well spoken and they don't swear a lot, I always like to know what their favourite swear word is.
I don't swear. I do, and I get really mad. I usually say frick a lot. That's
not a swear word. That doesn't count.
Hey, get off my back.
That wouldn't count in the UK. Not for no.
Frick. So, my mom is and my little brother and sister are half Jamaican, and they use this word that's bumbleclot. And I think it's the F word in Jamaican. So one time I said it and they were dying, probably because I'm like dorky little white girl that's just like, bumbleclot! And they just lost it laughing. I was just like, what? So I would say, to be in English, I would say, oh man, guys, that is a good one. You know, when I get really, really angry or I get really, really excited, the F word.
Yeah. So it's the classic. You can't beat it.
Yeah.
It's like
Fan favorite.
it's like the back squat of swear words. It's got to be done.
Yeah, I love that you asked that question. That's such a random question.
Oh, they're gonna get a little bit more
Tinder.
random now. So it's not so much. So this one's this or that, just one or the other. Snatch or clean and jerk. So clean and jerk. Running or rowing.
Is neither a choice?
Nope.
I mean, yeah.
Running.
Front squat or back squat.
Back squat.
Pizza or ice cream.
Ice cream, Jenny specifically.
Cookies or donuts.
Oh, cookies, 100%.
Last one. Olympic gold medal or £1 million.
What's £1 million mean? Like, dollars?
Yeah, so it'd be over $1 million, I think.
Well, let's just talk about this real quick. So, number one, if you're a really good athlete, you might have endorsements from the Olympic gold medal, so you might make £1 million. But
Eventually.
I would say the million, dude. Just give me the million. Screw the medal. The medal's just gonna sit in my drawer. No, I'm kidding.
Amazing.
Brilliant.
Alyssa, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Where can people find you if they want to know more about you?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's www.alyssaritchey.com, and then I have an Instagram, AlyssaRitchey1, the number 1. I also have a podcast called the Bitty Strong Podcast. It is on iTunes and Spotify as well. And then if you ever want to just hit me up with any sponsorships or anything, you can click on my email and my link in my bio. It's alyssaritchey15@gmail.com.
Cool. Amazing.
Awesome.
Again, Alyssa, thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Again, thanks to our sponsor, xendurance.eu. Again, check them out and also use the code AgogeTV20 for 20% off at the checkout. Don't forget to like and subscribe, review. We're on iTunes, Spotify, all the rest of the favorite podcasts, but wherever you find your podcasts, and also on YouTube under AgogeTV. And any likes, comments, and shares, much appreciated. Again, thanks very much, guys. Peace.